The Liberty's four-game road trip had some turbulence in Phoenix, a 106-91 loss where they had no answers for the Mercury's three-point onslaught. And to break it all down, what went wrong in Phoenix, what needs to change before New York's final game of the road trip, I'm joined by Liberty beat reporter for Winsidr. My guy, Myles Ehrlich, is with us now. Myles, long time no see. How you doing, man?
I'm good. I'm good. Hanging in. Excited for the West Coast part of this road trip to end so I can get back on a regular sleep schedule.
You know what? People don't think about that enough, right? For the beat reporters, you got to stay up late. You're not getting the earlier sleep that you would like, but you're toughing through it, getting the job done. But Myles, let's talk about what happened in Phoenix. What do you pinpoint as the root cause of this blowout loss in Phoenix? Was it purely the Mercury's hot shooting, or did you see deeper execution breakdowns in the game on Friday night?
There are definitely some execution breakdowns, like you said, but the fact of the matter is they hit 18 of 39 threes. They took a lot of shots. They made a lot of shots. They set a team record. Some of that you can just say is hot shooting, but a lot of it, if this was a one-off, we could just say that. But this has been a trend since Jonquel Jones went down with that injury. And it really starts at the beginning. It's the fact that they were digging out of a hole so early. And that's been a consistent thing that we haven't seen so much from the Liberty this season. So, yeah, I think when you're talking about the Mercury, it always starts with Alyssa Thomas. It's AT off of those DHOs. It's AT in a pick and roll. It's her just being able to draw so much gravity the minute that she gets 2 feet into the paint and then kind of kick out and have all those shooters around. It's Sammy Whitcomb seemingly not missing a three for the last 2 weeks. Satu Sabali had a career high 7. All of the role players really have stepped up so well. So this is a peaking, dangerous Phoenix team at a time where the Liberty are still searching and trying to find these rotations while they're down 2 starters in Jonquel Jones and Leonie Fibish.
Yeah, I agree with you on Phoenix. Dangerous and peaking. All those shooters around AT, very, very dangerous. And we saw what they did on Friday night to the Liberty. Now, after the game, I thought Coach Brondello's comments, Myles, were very interesting because she specifically called out a lack of fight and poor energy in the first half. She's called out the team's energy and toughness a couple of times now this season. Any concern in your eyes about this team having inconsistent energy from game to game?
It's hard. It's hard because Natasha Cloud was also part of that post-game presser, and she's someone who will always just kind of tell you how it is. And she said the same thing. I asked specifically if there was anything positive they could take away from the fact that to start that third quarter, she was getting downhill with a consistency we haven't seen since early in the season, or Niara Sabali brought her defense up another level and was like aggressively hedging in a way we weren't seeing and forcing some turnovers. And Tosh said, no, if we can do it in spurts, we can do it consistently. And that's something that they're recognizing, is that they are capable of that effort and they're just not executing. So coming into this stretch, they had been far and away the best first quarter team in the W. Now they've just dropped a little bit behind the Minnesota Lynx. So the Lynx are plus 3.7 points in first quarters. The Liberty have dropped down to plus 3.6. But in the last three first quarters, they were tied first in Seattle, and then they were trailing by 3 in Golden State, and then trailing by 9 last night in Phoenix. So in their first 12 games, they didn't have the lead just twice in the first quarter, after the first quarter, and now they've done that 3 straight times. That's the effort from the beginning, I think, that Sandy Brondello is calling out, is that they need to throw that first punch so that they're not on their heels.
Yeah, they haven't done that lately at all whatsoever. And you mentioned this earlier, that defensively the Liberty have struggled without Jonquel Jones. How has her absence impacted, I would say 2 things, right? Controlling the boards and then also interior defense. And I think we saw a lot of the latter last night. But how much has Jonquel not being there impacted those 2 things for the Liberty?
They've been kind of middle of the pack on rebounding all season, but they do on the season give up the second most offensive rebounds. That was an issue when JJ was there, and it's only become more of an issue since she hasn't been there. What I think is the biggest thing to call out is the fact that the Liberty are near the bottom of the league in these last 6 games, and they've gone 2-4 in forcing turnovers, just 15.1 per game, which is last in the W, but on the season, they're still 4th. So they were doing well really early on, and their best offense is that transition. So if they're not forcing those turnovers, if they're taking the ball out of the net, then defenses are allowed to come back, settle in, get them in the half court. And Jonquel Jones is a huge reason for that. Partially because she is an all WNBA level defender, but also because it enables Breanna Stewart to be able to roam. And she is the best in the WNBA at just using that basketball IQ, knowing where to be, and then using that really, really long wingspan, that 7'1 wingspan, to just blow everything up. So if you have Breanna Stewart sometimes now as the five in some of these more traditional lineups, then teams can know where she is. They can keep her home. They could put her into actions or just always kind of have an eye on Stewie. And then that just makes it so much easier to break down everything else.
Yeah, we're really seeing the impact of Jonquel Jones and how much the team misses her while she's out now with an injury. And speaking of injury, Sabrina Ionescu, she struggled again for the second straight game after she returned from missing the opener to this road trip with a stiff neck. With the team down two starters, do you think now Sab should rest till her neck is 100%, or do you believe she can work her way through this where she's not hurting the team offensively or defensively?
Yeah, I think that there were some interesting questions about that post game last night as well. About is she 100% out there? And Sandy Brandella said she's good to go, but acknowledged that defensively, other teammates had to pick up for some of that effort. And we saw this last year. Sabrina had a stretch with this same neck issue, and she played through it, and eventually she was right again. So it might just be something that it's not debilitating in the way in which she can't fully play the game of basketball, but it's going to slow some parts of her game. And over the last three games, she shot 6 of 36, which is an abysmal 16.7%. But then you think about the three games before that. The three games before that, she was 32 for 54, which was 59%. So part of it is kind of finding that balance with calling her own number and also just being a facilitator. She had 6 assists in the first quarter last night, but also had been over 6 at that time from the field. So this might be more about trying to get to the rim, get to the free throw line, and be a facilitator, because Breanna Stewart's playing really, really well right now. You just need somebody else to have that defensive gravity to help her kind of get to her spot so that she can attack some of those one-on-one mismatches, which I don't know will be available if Sabrina Ionescu is not out there.
Yeah, and it'll be interesting to see how Sab deals with this neck stiffness going forward. Last thing for me, Myles, let's look ahead to Sunday's road trip finale in the ATL. What are the key adjustments that the Liberty need to make to close out the road trip with a win over the Dream?
So the first thing I would say is the star backcourt there, right? The Ryan Howard, Alicia Gray backcourt. That's what you need to stop when you're there. Atlanta had them on the ropes the last time these two teams faced off. They were up by 17 in the third quarter before the Liberty came back and won. So it starts with that backcourt. It starts with those two, but also Brianna Jones. For a team that is struggling so much to stop opponents from offensive rebounding, that's where Breezy lives. We're seeing Brittany Griner kind of play in spurts right now. She's starting with them, but it's becoming Naz Hillman's role, and Naz is someone else who crashes the offensive glass. That's the biggest weakness. The Liberty in the last couple of games have cleaned up some of their turnover problems. Just 12 last night, and I believe it was 10 the game before, after averaging 18 a game in the 3 games before that. So they're cleaning up some of those messes so that they can get into some more of that half-court defense. But the biggest thing for them is to get stops early with those guards, get out and run, and make sure that you're finding a body and crashing that glass.
All right, we will see if the Liberty can do that. If they can get a win in the ATL, it'll make the road trip 2-2. Bit of a struggle for the Liberty, as Myles mentioned, 2-4 in their last 6 games. That is Myles Ehrlich. Check him out, covering the Liberty for Winsidr, doing a fantastic job. Myles, long time no see, as I said at the top. I will see you later this week at the Barclays Center.
Looking forward to it, Dex. Thanks so much.